Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream with us, your STEAM queens. I'm Charlie author, as ever, and I'm joined here with three of the queens. One is missing. She may join us a little later, but one is missing. So if you just quickly go around and introduce everybody as we always do, let's go that way. So Kimmy, and then down, and then along.
I'm Kim, write tissues on Instagram. I like to write fantasy. I currently have 3 whips or something, so it's going to be a while before anybody sees something from that.
Cool.
Hello, yep. I am Esme Carmichael. I am an author. I write dark fantasy and fantasy. I love horror as well. I tend to write about subverting many of the genres. So, for example, my soulmates book isn't your average soulmates book. In terms of reading, I love reading everything, but especially romance, which of course is why I'm here. So yeah, moving on.
I'm Megan Beth Davies. I write historical fiction, historical romance, historical fantasy, just kind of the boy genre. I've got about 7 whips, Kim, so it's probably going to be even longer until people see anything of mine. And I love reading pretty much all romance, I'd say, anything from paranormal to bodice rippers to contemporary. I haven't actually found a romance genre I don't like yet, but that's why we're here, reading them all and figuring out what we do and don't like.
What we do and don't like, exactly. As I said, I'm Charlie author, aka Charlotte Murphy. I don't have any whips at the minute because I think I'm the only one that has to do one and then the other. Like, I don't work on multiple things at a time. It throws me. I just absolutely can't. I'm all invested in one thing. So my current book is in editing stage, but I do have an idea for my next one. What do I read? Lots of smut, lots of fantasy. I am a crime thriller lover, but I need to read more of those. But I do really enjoy them. I like your Karen Slaughters and your Chris Carters. And
I did not know that about you. I didn't know you loved crime. Yeah.
No, I really do. Some of those stuff are dodgy. Like, it's good. Like, I think I really respect crime authors, bit off topic, but I really respect crime authors because I feel like they are the research kings. Like, fantasy, like, we do research and stuff, but it's almost in a way to just flip it on its head and make it how we want it. But you can't fake how a head injury looks or whatever. You have to know the details of, like, anatomy and, you know, a mystery to make sense. I respect them really highly. I think it's really, really good. But yes, won't digress too much. And today's episode is about paranormal fantasy. We asked you guys to send us a recommendation of what you wanted us to read for this month, and we had a few obviously come back, and the winner was a lady of Rooksgrave Manor for our paranormal poll. We will talk about that obviously momentarily when we touch on the book, but what I wanted to touch on first, or to open up the thing, was erotica. Now, just to set everybody up for, you know, discussion, we know what erotica is, generally speaking, but I got this off the internet because I thought it kind of summed it up in a nice way that we could discuss, right? So it says, erotica are stories written about the progress of a romantic relationship through sexual interaction. The sex is an inherent part of the story, character growth, and if removed, would damage the story. Okay? So we all get that. Sex is the spine. But is that enough, is the question. So where should we start? Let's start, Megan, and go back that way. Even though it is erotica and that is its basis, is that enough for you?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and I actually really love that definition of erotica, because I didn't know that. I just see it as when the smut gets kind of out of control and it's just pretty much on every page.
Yeah.
But I love that it's actually an integral part of the character growth. And, you know, without that, the story would be, you know, it would actually damage the story. And because I've read some books like that where if you take the sex away, the character is no longer experiencing, she's no longer having the growth. And now I have read some books that are a bit silly, probably not up there with my favorite books, but well written. Yeah, it's enough for me to continue the story and to watch a character grow sexually. as opposed to maybe, you know, in other ways, like career-wise or through friendships or whatever it might be, is just as much a part of the human experience as all the other stuff. So growing sexually is just as much a part of the human experience as growing in your career and growing with your friendships and growing romantically. So yeah, I agree. I think I agree with that that definition, and I think a well-written erotica can be good fun to read.
Can be good fun. Go on, what do you think, Ez?
I agree completely. I think erotica, you still have to have a character arc. So you still have to follow the character's journey from A to B. And even if in the story, they move through several different sexual partners and don't really have anything emotional going on with each of those partners, they still have to grow in some way from the beginning to the end of the story. Otherwise, why would you read it? You know, what is the backbone of this story? Because sex is a very powerful way to experience growth, you know. And even, I mean, for me personally, with my taste, I love it if the growth is emotional growth. So for example, if you have a sexual partner, and you develop all these whirlwind feelings for them, I love reading about that. But even if none of those romantic feelings developed, you still have to have sort of, as Megan said, this growth within yourself, you know, to try and, it's the whole thing about the character arc story. Even if there is zero plot, if there is a plot inside the character, then yeah, I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Kimmy?
Just to add very quickly, I actually think that's why erotica does get a bad rep, because there's been some erotica written that's just sex on the page without character arc. And I think that damages the erotica rep, because it's like, oh, it's just sex, and they think that all erotica is just sex.
Yes,
but that character arc part is really important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. When I read erotica, I think, oh, that's just, you know, porn on a page. But it's, the way you bring it, Megan, it's more than that. Indeed, if there is a character arc and there's growth, then actually it's like other genres, just more focused on sex. And that makes it far more interesting.
No, definitely. And obviously, as a disclaimer that we always touch on, porn on a page has its place as well. One of the reasons we started the podcast in itself was just kind of to dispel those feelings towards the fact that, a book full of smut wasn't worth a book that was, about other things, when that completely isn't the case. But what I touched on just before we started the live was the fact that, we all love a bit of steam every other page kind of thing, but there does need to be some kind of gel or thread or spine that keeps it all together and keeps you turning the page, because effectively it's like, the smut is just smart. We get it. It's interesting. It's fun. But if you don't have kind of like, not dull, but if you don't have the slow down bits, the fast-paced bits aren't as exciting, because they're just always there. Do you know what I mean? And then it becomes repetitive, because, well, I know they've had sex now. Like, this book isn't a slow burn book, so I need other stuff to make the sex come together, if that makes sense. I
think like more the porn on the page part is you read it for a different reason.
Yes.
Right. So that's.
I would also say as well that I find often when I'm reading like fantasy books that have no kind of romance thread at all, and have no kind of like emotional romantic growth for the character, I always feel a bit cheated. So in the same way that if you read like, erotica that has no character growth sexually or anything like that, I also feel a bit cheated when I read like a fantasy and there's no romantic connection, there's no kind of romance subplot. I mean, you don't want to throw it in just for the sake of it, but I love it when you've got that emotional and romantic growth as well. So it's interesting how it kind of can go the other way for me as well.
But no, I think another thing for me is length as well.
No.
I'm so childish. Anyway, so the other thing for me is length as well. So, for example, when we were talking, a thing popped into my head: the NM Costa. I always get the middle initial wrong. But she done the Christmas Krampus short thing. You remember that thing we watched with the ginger? The thing we read with the ginger and whatever.
Figging.
Figging, yeah, that exactly. And that was, maybe 100, 200 Kindle pages. And yes, it went straight into the banging, straight into the figging. What the hell is going on? And then it was over. I got that. This, i.e., Lady of Rooksgrave Manor, for me, was not packaged as a book, as a full length, long book. And for me, that was too long for the amount of banging that took place, if you see what I'm saying. So where we're saying, erotica, porn on a page, etc., has its place, I feel like that place for me should be a lot shorter. I can take it. Oh, we have a friend. Hey, Kia.
Hi.
Hello. How are you? Good. Ava Queen has joined us. Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah. So porn on a page, it has a limit for me. If it's a short little novella and they're straight at it, and she's getting her back blown all the way out, I'm all here for it, because that's it. That's just what's happening. But 200, 300, 400 pages in, and it's just been chapter after chapter of like, what's the purpose of this? Why am I still here? That's my personal stance on that one. How are you, Ken? Hello.
Hi.
Are you good? You just came in at a really interesting time.
No, I'm porn on the page. I'm with you. That's we're talking about Lady of Rooksgrave Manor.
Yes, you know what? We'll go straight into it now. So we'll change the title. So effectively, we all read it, bar one.
I didn't. I'm sorry,
there
guys.
you go. I wasn't gonna name and shame, but we all read it bar one, but we all didn't finish it. Only one. So,
I'm working through it. I just haven't.
Okay. Yeah, you just ran out of time.
Well, I ran out of I can't read that book sitting next to my 4-year-old.
Yeah.
I just can't. So,
yeah,
or really my husband, because
it's a bit much.
Like, every once in a while, are you ever watching with your significant other and they look over and they just glance at the page. And there's only how many times you can do that before you're like, look, I don't want to have to explain. Just
what this is. No, I get that definitely. I mean, I didn't finish at 22%. Kim, I think she said she didn't finish at chapter 9 or something like that.
Yeah.
Ezzy finished it. Good on you, girl. Megan didn't read it.
I'm going to join you. I will finish it. It's just going to.
And Care will finish, but no. Guys, we have lives, we have a lot going on. But what I wanted to go, obviously putting forward for discussion is going back to what we were saying about character growth. Okay, just for you, Care, this is what we had as a definition of erotica: stories written about the progress of a romantic relationship through sexual interaction. The sex is an inherent part of the story. Character growth, and if removed, would damage the story. Okay, that's what we were discussing earlier. And why I've brought that up again is the main character is Esther. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And I know I didn't finish it, so this is all very, just the part I read. I didn't feel any growth from Esther. It starts out that she's basically kind of a sex addict. She really enjoys having sex. It's kind of like a Victorian England setting, I think I got from it. So everything's quite rigid, and, she's not meant to be free-spirited and free sexually and stuff like that. But she just felt very immature, for a lack of a better word. She just didn't feel like she was learning or wanting to find any kind of deeper attachment to her sexual endeavors. It was just, I'm just going to bang anything that moves. And I didn't really take to that, if that makes sense. So for those that read, yay, nay, what would it?
I feel like I should maybe start there.
Yeah, go with Ez, because Ed's finished it. Go.
So I completely agree with you. So up until about 30% of the way, I was thinking to myself, admittedly, that it was getting a little bit repetitive. So she had all of these, there's frankly amazing sex with all of these different guys with various different magical appendages or whatever. And it was very much.
She's tired of it.
I'm sorry.
Go on. It was very much emotionally detached. She was obviously having a really good time, but in terms of moving the story forward, I was a bit okay. And then from about 30%, the plot finally appears, and it kind of progresses. But in terms of the character growth, you do see, in my opinion, she does have a really strong character arc in the sense that at the beginning, she is very much there for enjoyment and for pleasure, which of course is absolutely fantastic. But then as the story progresses and she gets all of these wonderful partners, she starts to fall in love with them, and she starts to realize the difference between sex and love, and wanting to have an attachment and comfort with somebody without necessarily sex being on the table. So from where she started, I thought that was really quite a big character growth, because before it was literally like she was, humping on the couch or whatever because she saw two people getting at it outside. And then
she literally rubbed one out on the pillow because she saw somebody else banging. What? Are you all right? Like, I just
no, spoiler alert here. I actually thought she was going to be a succubus.
Oh my gosh, same.
I was kind of hoping that was the direction it was going. Like, give a cause. No.
Yeah. No.
She just loves life.
She just loving life.
Mm-hmm.
I am not anti the enjoying sex for the sake of sex. And I mean, I will say that the writing of the sex,
that was good. Yeah.
I mean,
no, that was good.
I've yet to find a plot other than girl ends up. I can't get mad at magical appendages out of my head. But girl ends up with lots of magical dudes. Like that's. I mean, it's cool. I'm missing a story thus far, but I'm gonna power through. I will not leave you alone, as I promise.
No, as you said that, I realized we didn't actually say what it's about. So for those that don't actually know, as I said, set in kind of a Victorian London setting, there is a maid. She works in a household. The household gets dissolved for whatever reason, so she doesn't have a job. A doctor that was visiting the lady of not her landlord, her boss, basically. He says, a woman like you could do well in this other place. He brings her to what effectively is a paranormal brothel, or madam's house, whatever. And she begins to acquire clients of a very specific nature. She has a sphinx. She has a vampire. She has a guy made of stone, an invisible guy, and who's the fifth one?
Jekyll and Hyde, essentially.
Yes, and a Jekyll and Hyde type guy.
How does the invisible guy work?
The same way a normal guy works. You just can't see him.
I think I'm going to have to read this book just to see how that works.
Yeah. No, honestly, it's exactly the same. She just can't see him. And I think this is kind of going back again. So we touched on the actual writing of the sex was really good. Take nothing away from that. It was descriptive. It was good. What I didn't like, though, was the kind of lack of world building, I think is the right term, in the sense that she just accepted all of these paranormal things, or at least it was just written that these things were accepted. But then the madam,
not only did she accept it, but she accepted it mid-sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a bit disturbing.
The first time like a monster appears, it's mid-bang, and she's like, that shadow's weird. Yeah, let's do it.
Dude,
yeah, I've got to read this book.
I mean,
listen, no, because like Kate said, it's mid-bang, because she's all like, Dr. Jonathan or whatever his name is. She was like, he wasn't that big, and then basically just disrespecting his manhood. And then she was all like, this dude is bigger.
Yeah. So he's taking her from behind, right? So she cannot see him change.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden it's like, this feels big. So
this feels
he hasn't informed her or anything. He just changed, and
she's happy. This is Dr. Jekyll turning into Mr. Hyde.
And then he's like, he's gone. My name is Mr. Tanner, and that's fine too.
And she's completely fine with it.
And she's like, cool, let's continue. Like, what?
The consent there is bad though, because
oh gosh, there's no consent.
That's terrible. But then I suppose she's in a brothel.
Like, you're allowed to say no to anybody in the manor. They do. I think that the author tried to
yes.
But you're in a brothel
to give the power
at the end
to
of the day, aren't you?
But that initial one, there wasn't. No, there's no consent for you to change into a monster while we're having sex.
No, there isn't.
She wouldn't even know about that to say no to it.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. But as I
Yeah.
said, with the world building, she just accepts it. But as a
Mm.
contradiction, the madam, I forget the lady's name, but she, you know, she makes it clear that they have to hide it, as in, you know, these
Yeah.
men are of a specific taste, blah, blah, blah. So do we know about it or do we not? And I get that that's not particularly of huge importance in this kind of world, but it just would have been nice to have this kind of, ooh, is this a secret place hidden in the fog and nobody knows about it? Or is it everybody knows about it, but we just tried to hide it because it's not proper? Or, you know, just kind of some kind of idea of where they were. It was very white roomed in the sense she was at this house and then she was at the brothel and that was it. It was okay, fine. What else does that mean?
So I sometimes Oh, sorry. I was about to say, I sometimes find this with paranormal romance versus fantasy romance. Because for me, paranormal romance and fantasy romance do tend to like meld together and the line is very blurred. But I often find fantasy romance, the world building, the richness, all of that is often, and I'm being very generalistic here, but often a little bit more thought out. Whereas paranormal romance sometimes sticks to certain worlds and genres that they know that people will know, and then they just kind of get down to it. And that for me tends to be a separation. But that's probably just the books that I've read. I don't know if that is across the board and if other people have seen that.
Well, I think that, I don't know about you guys. I might be one of the more readers of paranormal romance in this group, kind of by accident, because for a while their paranormal romance kind of butted up against urban fantasy, and they like
yes, I remember that stage.
They like lingered near each other for a while.
Yeah,
like there are some authors who write two series in the same world where one would be considered urban fantasy and the other would be paranormal romance.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But they're intertwined. Like
yeah. Which one is it?
Before I found Instagram, Bookstagram, this is what I read all the time. But I didn't read this. I didn't read books like A Lady of Rooksgrave's Manor because I feel like there's like two different sides to paranormal romance. There's books like this, which range a little bit farther into like erotica. And then I wouldn't put this book next to the Night Huntress world.
Yes, not at all.
Which
not
is
at all.
firmly paranormal romance, and 100%. Call them the same genre, but they are.
Yeah. No, I totally get that, because I forget what the series overall is called, but the Nalini Singh books as well.
The Guild Angel.
The Guild Hunter, I think. So it's Night Huntress.
But that's the same,
Guild
exactly.
Hunter.
There is world building. It has all those urban fantasy elements, but it's firmly paranormal romance.
It is.
So I feel like it's almost a scale. And what I think of as paranormal romance isn't what I think most people do, because most people would think of this. And I think of Alpha and Omega series. I think of Janine Frost. I think of Alona Andrews.
Yeah.
Those authors who are also in this realm, but tend to just do more world building. So Meg, I would say that if you were looking for a little more world building, but with the paranormal romance elements, like I think you might want to go that direction.
Oh,
would you say that, because I think you've like touched on a really important topic, like a lot of the books that you read before you got introduced to Instagram Bookstagram aren't on Instagram Bookstagram.
Yes, it's just crazy.
I've heard a lot about the Night Huntress series. I never see it doing the round on Bookstagram.
And you know why? And I actually talked about this in a Facebook group, and I'm not going to go off on it because it's a little tangent-y, but essentially publishers started smacking half-naked girls on the covers of those books, and they got shunted off. So there's no beautiful ACOTAR covers. There's no beautiful Shadow and Bone covers on these books. There is a half-naked girl. Or a half-naked girl being groped by a half-naked guy.
Naked guy,
But historical romance that hasn't like damaged historical romance that much. But then they've been kind of known as like
what it is. Like and this is even playing all the way into urban fantasy. Now the Mercy Thompson series is a favorite of mine. It's pure urban fantasy. But the first covers of those books, the girl's a mechanic and is like a mechanic's mechanic. And the first cover of the book has her in like a tied off top with all this cleavage and her belly out. And she looks like she's ready to throw down. And there is zero sex in that book.
Oh, okay.
Like none.
Who are they trying to appeal to, though? They must know that it's 30-year-old women reading this.
This is what I'm saying. Her covers have gotten loads better because she happens to be, New York Times bestselling. But even those, they're New York Times bestselling series, and you don't see them on Instagram ever.
Yeah,
it's like me and one other person.
Exactly. No, I was just going to say, I think we're delving into the arena of book shaming, in the sense of, not us shaming it, but the fact that there are what we consider or other people consider levels to paranormal or any other genre, where, as soon as you do slap a half naked person on the front, you do have an idea of or an assumption, should I say, about what it's going to be about. And like, while we can respect that, yes, two different types of paranormal don't make one better or worse. One does have more of a stigma against it than the other. And I speak from, I say, personal experience, because obviously my current book, Wolves of Duty, is technically a paranormal fantasy because they are werewolves. Sorry, because they're wolf shifters, right? And just when I was deciding to do that, I was so worried, wrongly so, but I was so worried that, the minute I put werewolf in it, everyone's going to think I'm writing a, what's the word? Immature virgin, hot alpha topless guy called Connor wanting to rip her chest. Do you know what I mean? As soon as you put paranormal werewolf fantasy together, people immediately click to what they think it's going to be about, and that's not always a good
and it's
thing.
sad, because I can tell you so many series that are really, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not high literature, but
no,
like
yeah.
some of the most solid writing I found is in contemporary. I would put it all under contemporary paranormal, urban fantasy, of like long form series that don't suck or turn into a massive orgy like Laurel K. Hamilton. Like, and I think that with Bookstagram, the issue is that the disservice with the covers didn't used to matter until TikTok and Instagram BookTok and Bookstagram happened. And now no one wants to take an ugly cover and slap it on their page.
Yeah. You're right.
Agreed.
So if you're going to put a cover, now the historical romance, everyone expects that. People still put them up on their page. But you don't ever see paranormal romance, those kind of covers.
You know why? Because historical romance fans are traditionalists as well. They love, the history, and the covers, like the Fabienne style covers, almost become like legacy for that genre. So it's almost become like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. Like, as a writer of historical romance, I would love to have a Fabienne cover if I ever publish one.
Do you want a Fabienne cover?
I do. Not because I actually think that like it's a wonderful cover to have, but because it's kind of like the legacy of the genre.
Yes,
and that's
that makes sense.
That's why they're all like that. But I don't think you have that same kind of culture within the paranormal.
Once you actually release, you should do it like a special edition cover or like an alternative cover. So you'll do a regular one for Instagram and then do a Fabio one for you later.
Maybe just an art for the inside cover.
Yes, that would be good. That would be good.
So just an example, this is the first Mercy Thompson cover.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Patricia Briggs. Yeah,
I've heard of her. Bad. I quite like it. It's quite edgy. Yeah,
look at the tattoo on the train.
Tough girl.
This is not what you necessarily see. Now, mind you, this is also hard to find anymore. It's all paperbacks now. But like now they've gotten better.
I see. She's got a bit of embossing going on there.
So how old are these books, Kit? When were they first released?
These books, the first one. Hold on. I want to say 2006. The first book came out.
So like 15 years ago. So I wonder if at that point they still thought those kind of books were appealing to men. Because back in like 20, 30 years ago, fantasy books were primarily read by men. Women were still reading Danielle Steele, and I
think that most of them are still in the fantasy section, so they're trying to get the guys to pick them up.
Exactly. And now they realize they don't need that. Like women, I'd say women are just as much a consumer of fantasy as men are nowadays, which is amazing. It's no longer alienating to us.
No, I think that's going off a bit off topic, but that's why it's getting a bit more frustrating for a lot of male writers, because they're writing what is sort of niche now. So once upon a time, fantasy was just epic white man fantasy, and now there's so many pockets and so many levels that they're having to kind of fight to get that into what fantasy is, because only a very small section of the industry is, I wouldn't say interested in that, but is still interested in the old way, if that makes sense, because we're doing so much more now.
There's even two genres of fantasy romance. There's fantasy romance and romantasy. There's two, and I don't know the difference. I don't understand the difference.
I do.
Apparently romantasy is more that the romance plot is a lot more, or like it's romance in a fantasy setting, whereas fantasy romance is a fantasy book with a romance subplot. So I suppose I do understand it, but like, I don't know.
That's exactly what it is. And I feel, again, using my own book as an example, I was really adamant not to kind of put romance in the, what is it about? Because it wasn't about the love story. Like, that was a subplot and it was part of her growth and all this kind of thing, but the overall arc was something completely different. So, like, I don't know if it's a real word, but I've been calling it a dramantasy.
Nice.
So it's a drama fantasy because it's a bit full on, but like the love is great and the sex is great and stuff, because like we said earlier, we all like to have a bit of romance in the book. If there's none there, it's just like, I want some of that. So I will always include love, romance, subplot, steam in any book I write, sci-fi, whatever. You're getting some love in there, but I don't want to label it romance, because then people expect that to be a really big part of it, or at least a main part of it. And if it's not, then
but I would say like Throne of Glass and ACOTAR. Now I've still not read ACOTAR, but from what I understand of it,
it's
would
romance.
we say that Throne of Glass series is fantasy romance and ACOTAR is romantasy?
I wouldn't even say Throne of Glass was fantasy romance. I don't like. There's love in it, but it's not romance. I don't think it is.
No,
anything that ends up with everybody paired up at the end to me has at least a romance as a subplot.
But that's when ACOTAR does kind of fly against grain, because she obviously, it changes, without doing spoilers, but it changes, and I think that flies in the face of, if you're doing a pure romance, you write the book and the person they tend to meet at the beginning tends to be endgame.
Yes, okay.
So that's why
I'm trying now where it's not, though. I feel like people are starting to fake out with romance. Like, I'm gonna.
I don't like that. I like when romance has its rules. I like when it has a happy ever after. Like when you are introduced to the character and they're the one that they're going to fall in love with.
Okay, like that, like more.
That's romance for me. That's romance.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Esme?
Just thinking about Throne of Glass versus ACOTAR. So I can't remember whose talk I was watching. It was ages ago, but they were saying that the difference between romantasy and fantasy romance is that one of them, if you take the romance out of the story, do you still have a story? And I think with Throne of Glass, you do still have a story, but then with ACOTAR, you don't, because of that spoilery thing that happens.
Yeah. No, that is exactly it. Thank you. I was thinking that to myself. Like, that's why I don't consider Throne of Glass to be romance in that sense, because taking her relationship with Rowan out of it, even Dorian and Kale and stuff, she's still fighting for an overall thing. She's still trying to save her world, herself, all that other stuff that we've all read now. That continues whether she falls in love or not. Feyre, no. She survives off the back of some dick. That's all she cares about. Jesus. God. But no, if you take it out, if you take out the love, Feyre has nothing. She's such a basic bitch.
You really make me want to read this book.
No, listen.
And remember, we don't shame books on this.
We don't shame books here, but I'm sorry. She's such a bitch.
But you can shame characters, and that's what you're doing. It's fine.
Very true.
No, everybody should read ACOTAR and Throne of Glass just for it's like Bookstagram initiation. You just have to have read it.
That's why I said Shadow and Bone was my Bookstagram initiation. I feel like once I read it, I'm like, oh, now I'm a Bookstagrammer.
Yeah. No, there's a few basic bitch books that everybody has to read. It's just SJM books, Shadow and Bone books, Priory of the Orange Tree, The Cruel Prince, and Caraval. Everyone's obsessed.
I haven't read any of those. I've read ACOTAR, and
then don't be happy because you're not a basic bitch, man. I am a basic bitch.
I would try JLA too, but I refuse to read her because I just
read who?
Refuse disappointment.
Oh, sorry, which one? I missed the beginning. Oh, JLA. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, No,
That's
she's
not
dead
it.
to us.
Well,
Actually,
not all
if
of
she
us.
did to you, if
Not
she
all
did
of
to
us.
you, okay, she's really after
Okay,
the War of
maybe
Two
I'll
Queens, she's
tag
not
along
dead
just
to you.
see if I can join Ezzy's team.
No, Ezzy needs people on her team always.
I agree the last book is terrible, but
Yeah.
it's fine. And like overall, the series still holds a very special place in my heart.
The first book
That's
does
what
for me.
matters.
I
I
really
love the
enjoyed
first book, and the second
The
book
first
was
book was
good. I really enjoyed the
Meh.
first two. I haven't read the third just because I don't want to read the
Meh.
fourth, so I'm just pretending it ended.
I think I think it was Rebecca, obviously in our Bookish Buddies group, and she literally just sent me, well, she sent the group, but she just sent the screenshots of the joining because it's the only bit I wanted to
Yes,
read.
yeah.
I was like, I'm not reading the rest of this just to get here. I'm sorry.
Such a
I'm
cop
not.
out.
It really was. You know what? And this is so going off topic because we were still talking about Rooksgrave, but whatever, we're having fun. When I recently read Zodiac Academy, so I'm a Zodiac Academy whore. I'm sorry, here I am.
Yeah, don't tell too much because I'm
No,
just
I know I won't spoil it. But there is a threesome. Remember, I was yelling in the group, threesome, and I promise you that threesome was what JLA wished she had written. Hear what I'm telling you.
God, it's not the
Hear what I'm
sisters, right?
telling you.
That would be weird.
Hear what I'm telling you. That threesome there.
Look, we've read fan fiction. We've read fan fiction better than that threesome. That fan fiction of Cassian, Azriel, and Nesta.
Oh,
that was fire. That was so good. I think everyone there discovered a new kink. They were like, I've never thought about this before, but actually reading that, you're like, I could do that.
That fan fiction tops billings all over the fucking place. The Zodiac Academy threesome, when you get there, enjoy it. That was
Which book is it?
4.
Oh,
no, 5. Yeah, it's book 5. Yeah, because I'm on book 6, so I just read it. Yeah, it's book 5. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's amazing. And in some weird way, it's respectful.
Kind of
a little bit.
No, it shouldn't be. Like a well-written threesome should feel respectful.
Yeah.
It's not something shameful to want to be with more than one partner. And so it should feel respectful when it's written. So that's a good thing. That means it was a really good threesome.
Yeah, I don't ever want to read a sex scene and then afterwards be like, "Ooh, that felt awkward."
No.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's really good. Like Zodiac Academy, and I feel this is a nice kind of segue into what we're going to talk about, obviously, for next month. But Zodiac Academy it starts off just really addictive silliness. It's completely ridiculous, but you're still reading it. But it has surprised me in its, dare I call it, growth, Ezzy? It is surprising in its, its overreaching plot and reasoning and depth. Yeah, like stuff is actually happening. There's, what did Vicky say? There's 85% fluff keeping all of this together, but you endure the fluff because other stuff is going on.
Well, here's the thing: is that you like the characters by this point, so you can watch them watch TV if it's managed, and then I like them. But there's also something to be said for a little fluff. We've all had stuff going on.
Oh, I love fluff. I love fluff.
Good fluffy romance is exactly what's needed. Not that that makes it sound nice. It's a bully romance. It's not that nice.
No, it's not. It's not. It's terrible. Like, it makes absolutely no sense why they like each other. Like, he's been abusing you, babe.
Maybe we need to come up with a new word besides fluffy because it would imply niceness. There's none.
We need to have fluff as one of our monthly things, like something so pink and so unicorn glitter and just absolute cupcakes. Just rainbows. I need all of that.
February will do fluff.
Fluffy February.
Yeah, proper fluffy romance.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing.
Hold on, let me change this.
Yes, sorry.
What were you going to say?
I just said February fluff then. But just something as well, going back to when we were talking about what makes a good threesome and what makes not good threesome.
Yep.
One of my pet issues with what's it called? A War of Two Queens was that she didn't know who was doing what to her.
Yeah. Same.
And I just don't understand how physically that is possible, particularly when one of them is the dang husband, like
that's
it sounds like she doesn't want to. no, because she doesn't want to attribute it. Like, it sounds almost quite traumatic for her. Like, it wasn't something.
I see that. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, she's kind of blocked it out. And also, I don't get it. Like, her and Cass were all set up to be heartmates in Endgame. Why even introduce that in the first place? I just don't understand why she did it. I think she lost such a fandom from that.
No, she did, because she tried to basically please everybody by giving it, but then not highlighting who did what, so you can't actively say that Poppy cheated, basically.
Yeah.
Which she did. I'm sorry. Like, the setup made it wrong. Like, we're all here for, you know, poly relationships and all that kind of stuff. We've had a whole episode on it, but it was just, and I haven't even read it, but reading that section, it was just really off key. Like, you can't tell me, oh, you don't know whose hands those are, or you don't know whose lips those are. This is, you're meant to be, as you said, heartmate, soul guy, and you don't know the difference. You don't know the difference between his breath or the feel of his hair. And like, let's not even be funny. They're two totally different races. You can touch the top of one's head and know which one is fucking different, you stupid bitch. Like, this makes absolutely no sense. Like,
even just the smells, like your partner has a certain smell to them. Like, you don't even have to open your eyes.
Level of your body against theirs. You know what I mean?
It's just, I don't know.
It opened it up for, I dare to say, slut shaming, in the sense of all of this was Poppy's fault, I feel. Do you know what I mean? As in, all the kind of decisions to bring Kieran in, or to look at Kieran in this way, or to not know that your husband was this. It was all you. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you entertaining this? And I didn't like that, because one of the big things about smut, steam, romance, whatever we call it, we're always advocates for the strong female who's in charge and in control and all this kind of stuff. And even though she was trying to write it as though Poppy was in control, you weren't. Like, you were just kind of a slave to the feeling or to the emotion, but it took away the actual feeling from it, and that just kind of destroyed it. The foundation didn't work very well for me. I don't think.
I think a lot of people, there's so many 1-star reviews on that book now.
so many
1-star reviews.
I love a 1-star review. They're actually really
they're
fun.
great. Like, I basically read the book by reading the reviews.
basically. Sorry, so I'm gonna go backwards to go forward. So we were talking about, obviously, Zodiac Academy, which counts as kind of school smut. So we are going into, oh gosh, I didn't change that. Let's change this. We're going into September, right? Hold on.
Yeah.
Because I can't type. Back to school.
So we're going back to school.
Yes, exactly. So September is going to be school smut. So we need your recs about, or for this genre. So how did we define this, Megan? Like, so they have to be in school, and they're usually of school age.
The characters have to be in school. Yeah,
it doesn't have to
teachers.
be. Please, no. I mean, college preferred.
Yeah. High school, college.
Yeah. But like, it's not. We decided it wasn't going to be about teachers. We decided it was going to be about students. Even if they're with a teacher, there has to be at least one student getting it on.
Yeah, getting it on. Age gap is good.
Age gap is good. I think what like ones that people might have read, as you said, Zodiac Academy. The Deal is one of my favorites.
I've heard, you mentioned that one.
And I've been wanting to read Ninth House, and I'm pretty sure that falls into this.
It falls into school, but is there smut in it? I didn't know there was smut in it.
I mean, it was her first adult work, and usually that means I added sex to it. So I don't have to look it up.
No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we all love a bit of smut, but for the purpose of this, it has to actually include it. So do we know that it's in there? If it is, then we can put that out.
Google it.
I did Google it, and it said it has it, but I haven't read it, so I don't know how much.
No, that's good.
I know that the one with Naomi Novik as well, the Academy one.
Oh, Deadly Education.
Oh, I've been watching that too.
I think that either that one or the second one definitely has one sex scene in it. But this is more smut as in like the odd sex scene, as opposed to, like, I would say that The Deal, for example, and the one books after that, they have like 3 or 4 sex scenes in, maybe 5 sex scenes, and you get sex from the beginning. It's not insta love, but you get some sex scenes from the beginning, so it's a bit more smutty than like one with like 1 sex scene or 2 sex scenes, I would say.
Well, that's what we need your help with, guys. So if you're listening to this, either on podcast and all that kind of stuff, or on our Insta page, make sure you check out our stories so you can let us know some recommendations, and we will pick one or get you guys to vote on one, whichever one we decide. So we can get on to reading those for the whole of the month. And just in case anybody didn't think I was promoting that, please read Zodiac Academy, because it is basically book crack, and it's
basically addictive series.
It's amazing, but it's not. It's terrible, but it's so good.
I feel like once you get to like book 6, you don't get to call it terrible anymore.
No, listen, I'm firmly in the understanding that I am reading absolutely poor literature. Okay, I just don't care. I just don't care. I am a Darius Accru simp. Okay, I love him. I want to be with him every day.
Orion.
Absolutely every day. Girl, you can have Professor Orion at this point, because you don't even know. You don't even know.
Talking about paranormal romance and ridiculous series, something that I have been reading and I think everyone should get onto is Ruby Dixon's like Fire Dragon series. I'm on book 5, and this falls into this because it's kind of paranormal romance, but basically,
I would think so.
Dixon sets it in a post-apocalyptic world, so it's a little bit more edgy than Ice Planet Barbarians, and it kind of touches on some slightly more kind of triggering themes, I would say. Like the characters have a lot more of a harrowing past, and these dragons have come through the rift and destroyed the world. But basically what the situation is that there's red dragons and gold dragons, and it turns out the red dragons are females and they've gone completely crazy. Something in their world makes the dragons go crazy. And the gold dragons can only stop being crazy when they find themselves a mate. Now, because the red dragons have gone crazy, they can't get a mate there. So started picking human women to be their mates. Now, I know you're laughing. I know it sounds ridiculous. But it's good, guys. It's in the same way that if I was going to explain Ice Planet Barbarians to you, you'd also laugh. But I would say it's as good as Ice Planet Barbarians.
I'm laughing in the best way because, of course, they've gone crazy, and of course they need human women. Of course.
It's the only thing to make them sane. And then when they have this like bonding ceremony, then they can talk to each other via their thoughts. And then they have this telepathic communication. But they're so good. They're a little bit longer. They're like 300 pages, most of them. And the story is slowly getting better and better. Like she's adding more world building with like every book. And you get more and more revealed with every book. And the dragons are a little bit more edgy. Like in the same way that the barbarians in Ice Planet Barbarians, they're like super sweet and they just want to please their mate. They're the same. But they're a bit more edgy because they're like dragon warriors. They're a bit more possessive and a bit darker.
I'm here for a dragon.
It's good. Honestly.
I'm here for a dragon, as we know.
Ruby Dixon is like my favorite.
You just got Charlie's happy word. You added dragons. She's in.
I'm obsessed.
Dragon men.
Dragon
6 foot golden dragon men.
You know what? You're just talking about Darius right now. Like it's just all doing stuff. Like I just can't cope, guys. I'm gonna read. What was it? It's Ruby Dixon, isn't it? So all of these recs we discussed, I've been jotting them down. That's why I keep looking this way. I'll update these and they'll be in the descriptions if you guys want to know obviously what those books were and get up to date with them. So we've got the Nalini Singh Guild Hunter, we've got Jeannie Frost Night Huntress series, we've got Patricia
Briggs' Fever series by Karen.
Oh, Karen Moaning, that's going to be really good.
Which Fever? Which one?
The Fever series by Karen Marie Moaning. I'd add that.
Yeah, that's meant to be great.
Marie Moaning or Mooning?
Moaning. Moning.
Seriously?
In order to write this shit, you need to have a last name like Moaning or Dixon. Like
yes.
Or you need to give yourself a last name like Moaning or Dixon.
Moaning or Dixon. It's like Karen Slaughter. Obviously, she writes crime and her surname is Slaughter. Like, come on. That's not normal. That's not normal. That's not okay.
I once worked with a lady called Monday Morning. Her name was Monday and her last name was Morning.
Her parents were mean.
I was just going to say, her parents didn't think that through.
No, Monday morning.
Monday morning. And you have to say it with such a little accent, like a northern. It's Monday morning.
Monday morning. She was American though, but she still got it.
Oh, bless her. Absolutely bless her. So as you can see, obviously on the screen, make sure to follow us, your hosts, on Instagram, as well as our Team Steam Queens page, where you can keep up to date with all of us, and obviously our polls and quotes and reels and all this kind of stuff, which are put together by the lovely team here. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in. We're ready for the next 30 days of smut-tasticness, and we will speak to you guys soon. Okie dokies.
I'll read this one.
No, we will. I mean, I always start them. It's not my fault if they're not good. All right.
Vote for the deal, guys. Vote for the deal.
It's no fair, Meg. You've already read it.
It's not fair.
I know, but I've read it 3 times. I can read it a 4th.
Oh,
That good.
It's that good. Cool. Thanks, guys, and speak to you later. Bye.
Bye.